This wind turbine project was announced and came hand in hand with the 2019 recognition of the occupied Syrian Golan Heights as belonging to Israel. The US recognized that area. Trump said, "I gave you the Golan, it took me 15 minutes." This idea that it was just something that could be given, something that could just be taken by an American president, was really absurd and shocking to the people who live there, who say that this is a military occupation, and that that's also what that confers with what international law says too. This project came hand in hand with these transitions and was fueled by them. There's many ways we can look at this that show that it is not motivated by clean and green energy, but by the same desire to cleanse the land of Arabs, of their traditions and of their culture. And it's on this wind turbine is on the last piece of open space that the Jawlanis have to expand their villages into. And of the 5% that is left for indigenous Jawlanis on their land, that after 95% of it was taken in the '67 war, of that 5%, this turbines will fill a quarter of that with an uninhabitable noise. So the project's title is Zifzafa, which in Arabic is an old, obsolete Arabic word meaning a wind that shakes and rattles everything in its path. I guess from a zafzaf, something that is shaking. It's a word that is not particularly esoteric. We understand where it emerged from, but when I began working and thinking about this project, which wind energy is at the center, it became important for me to think about what vocabulary we have for Arabic to describe the wind. And the wind is always a force of transition. We only really notice the wind when something is in the air. And I thought, as there's so many kind of transitions coming, there's so many forms of social reorganization happening around wind energy, around wind as a byproduct of warming seas and climate change and the hurricanes and tornadoes and gales that will start coming, that it was important to refamiliarize ourselves with some of this vocabulary. And it became a particularly useful concept because it connects wind and sound, and that's really what the project is about. Wind energy is going to be an important factor as we move into a kind of decarbonized planet. But right now there are a few cases around the world, either in Mexico, in Norway, and now in the occupied Syrian Golan Heights, where the people who are feeling the brunt of having these energy-producing turbines on their land are indigenous people, are people who have not really participated in the pollution of our planet. In fact, quite the opposite. If you look at the way they've lived, it's been very sustainable and community-oriented. For this project, there was a great deal of research necessary because we had to build a simulation of what it would be like for people who live in the occupied Syrian Golan Heights to have these turbines above their head, on their homes, on their farms, producing a massive amount of noise that essentially pushes them off their land or alters incredibly the way they will live on their land, their relationship to the land. We had to be able to measure that, so I began outsourcing that research to an organization called Earshot, which I work for and with and established. And Earshot's mandate is to do sonic investigations for environmental advocacy and human rights. So we went to Germany to record only one of the few accessible sites where these 250-meter, the largest land-based turbines are. Those are the same ones set to be built in the Jawlan. And we measured that and we calibrated our simulation so that exactly the sounds you hear in our recording, the field recordings we've made in the simulation, you will hear that effect on the homes and the place and the relationship to the land in the Jawlani. So what you hear in the performance is what will be if they build these turbines. So this bit of technology, which ended up in a video game simulation that Fabio Cervi from Earshot kind of led the design on and performs as an instrument in the performance, is also a tool that will be circulated in the Jawlani and will really try to be something that tries to furnish their existing struggle for self-determination, which is the legal right that you choose on your land, your way of life, be that political, economic, social. And what we're adding to that is also the sonics of self-determination. It is about sound, it's about the sounds that form the acoustic bonds of a neighbor, the sounds that you hear drifting in your house, but it's also about thinking about how sound is a relational material and how, in a way, I suppose, it's a device, it's a conceptual device to think about what are the bonds that hold community together. And I think sound is a good way of examining that. It's a good way of finding those fibers that bond communities and finding those points. And what you listen to in the performance, be it beehives, be it wedding announcements, be it all the sounds of life from that area that is threatened by this construction of these turbines, you're hearing that kind of sonic self-determination. You're hearing acoustic life ring out as it should be and as it is decided on those people's land and with their culture.
Alserkal Arts Foundation is a space which is really rooted in research, and while we make things public, we also work on long-term projects. So I think for us, this way of working, the kind of slow burn behind the scenes that then manifests as something that allows us to originate ideas, not just reproduce them, is really important. And Zifzafa at the foundation has really been a very organic evolution of a project that started with a conversation between Lawrence Abu Hamdan, who is one of our close confidants, collaborators, and one of our previous residents, Shada Safadi. And it was really through their conversation that he learned about what was happening in the Jawlani. And a little over a year later, we have seen what this kind of commitment to social justice and to collaboration and to making things public in a way that encourages people to kind of get beyond their stereotypes or received wisdom, to really question and challenge things. I think that's part of the process, that's part of the kind of space we've tried to create.
A central collaboration for this project was musicians from the Golan Heights, and one in particular was Saleh, who scored the performance tonight. He also made all the field recordings that are in our video game simulation. Those are his recordings. That's his decisions to capture that land for not only us to be able to simulate how that will be affected by the turbines, but also to preserve that place, because after the turbines are built, there will be no record of how that place sounded, except for our video game simulation and the recordings Busha has made.